It is Sunday evening. It's just starting to get dark now. Solar's producing about 70 watts. This is the current status of the batteries. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and shut it down. So Amy and kids are away for a week. I'm going to shut it off now and then run it probably until Saturday evening to see if I can be off grid. Now, I've never actually shut this down to isolate it from the grid. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Here we go. So here's the box, grid in. So I'm going to power this off. Let's see. So that's killed everything. That's now come back up again. Okay, so that's the grid in is off. We will be consuming nothing. That there is correct because I don't think that's producing anything. This is connected to the batteries. The second pack has got a red light on it. So have a little look. Grid lost fault. Hopefully that'll boot up. We'll leave that running. It's at 99%, that one. That's the smaller battery pack. So this is the bigger and this is the slightly smaller. And just having a look, see what she's reporting out. It's in EPS mode, 87%. Now it might be that one's not set up to run in EPS mode. We shall see. But I'm going to go in the house now and see if the house is actually running. And look at this. Light on, light off. House is running on that bigger battery pack at the moment. So the house is now just running fine. And it's definitely not connected to the grid. So we've got zero feed in at all. This is the evening before the first day. I'll catch you tomorrow. Morning, it is day 2. We started today with 52% on the main battery pack and 98 on the other because this was down. William from the forums, absolute spot on, knows his stuff. Helped me bring this online. So it's now in EPS mode, but the issue was the batteries had to be rebooted back up and a black button on there held, and then this booted up because it went offline, completely turned off. It's rebooted back up now and the settings changed, put it in EPS mode, so that's now can output power to go with both. But I had another issue. As some of you know, we got electric car, electric car, electric car. This has got 28 miles left on it. This has got 10. Bad, I should have started at all 100%, but I didn't to do this test. This one is online. I'm going to test it again because without that other inverter working, of course, this is trying to pull. It's not a smart charger. It just tries to pull the max amount and it just tripped out. Didn't turn off, just went boof, and this screen was blank but lit up, so it didn't lose power. On the other hand, the Zappy has no power. Nothing. Nothing at all. Don't think it'll boot up of any description. Nothing works. It's dead as a doo-doo. Don't know why. I'm going to go and check the main fuse board, but all the ones in the garage, they're all good. Nothing's tripped or anything weird like that. Let's try this again now. Both battery packs are in. See if I can get a charge because I need it. All right, let's see what happens. Now, last time it started to charge and tripped out. This time it isn't. That is spot. Oh no, it has. I heard it clunk. Okay, so there we go. That is what it did. Shoot. Okay. So it's not pulling from both packs because I assume the problem was because this takes 6.6. The inverter will output a max of 6. That was my understanding. And so that's 600 watt extra, even though I've got over 1,000 watt solar at the moment. I didn't earlier. I thought that's why this was tripping out. Okay. For the sake of it, let's try this car, because this one, onboard charger, is only 3.3. 6.6, 3.3. So let's try this one. We are back up. Now what that actually did, judging by a load of other smart devices I've got, it actually killed the power to the house temporarily. So it didn't like something. So let's try this now. Plug this in. Let's see if, I think it might be charge delayed though. Okay, it's still charging, and it is charging. Let's have a look. It's definitely, yeah, it's no problem at all. So the draw on this is just too much for the system to handle for some reason or another. That needs looking into, but it's charging this ENV200, no problem at all. Yeah, so I'll be using this one today. So if total grid failure and needed to charge, I can get it out on the road on this one, but this one's gonna be more difficult. I could cover that off if I could get this working, because this can obviously just use solar only if it had power. Presume it would work, because it can like put 1,000, 1,500 watts in as a minimum. So I could restrict, I get that charge, but with a restriction using the Zappy if it worked. But there we are. This is day 2, so a couple of weird issues. A couple of other weird issues. This here, smart lighting. This is a Hue system. I'm not sure which system you may or may not have, but a consideration if you're certainly away from home with this smart lighting. So remembering this is supposed to be, you know, everything fails in terms of the grid. You want to survive for a sustained power outage. Dogs are talking to me now. Yes, I know. Should we get you some food before I carry on? Yeah, it's a good idea, isn't it? And if you happen to be away and you've got smart lighting, especially to the intensity of which I've got it, so I pretty much put a full Hue bulb system in place. And what that means, of course, is they've got modes set up within the Hue system to actually, on power loss and recovery, what do you want it to do? Do you want it to come just on? Do you want it to return to its previous setting? And they've actually got one, which I think introduced several years ago, was basically on, and then it'll time out and go off. So I've gone through, and so I've got a mixture of those bulbs where I haven't done that because I've never had to cross this bridge. Some of them where things were being shut off regularly, like the outside garage and stuff like that, we're just shutting off anyway. That was an annoyance, so I'd gone through, some of those bulbs were done. But I realised that there's loads, after doing this experiment for the first time ever, shutting the whole grid off and allowing it to boot back up on the battery power, I was thinking some of these lights are on and not going off. And of course, that's why. Now, if you're away from home and all the lights would boot up, if the settings weren't all the same, which is basically to turn off after power recovery, be on, then turn off a little while later, essentially, if you're away for a week, it's a small amount of power, but it's vital. It's so difficult to get power into your system. What you don't want is 30 lights just glaring for no reason whatsoever, because what's the point? You might as well save those 8, 10 watts or whatever they are each, times 30. So just something to consider. So we've come across day 2. Well, day 1 really, I suppose, but we call it day 2. We're calling it day 2. Day 2, the discovery that the Zappy isn't working. I had the issue with the inverter, which is now resolved, so that's back online. Second pack is now working. That should feed into the house, no issues at all. And smart lighting has been a discovery. When we had a minimal power loss before, I will note this, sensitive equipment. Now with the inverters, you can adjust the voltage. And so we did that. Well, I did because we got the access to it to be able to do that. Because an amplifier was tripping on and off when it was running on the house battery for that 15 minutes. I was thinking, what's that clicking noise? We weren't really aware the power had gone off, to be honest. It was only thinking, why is that doing that? And when I turned it off, a bit of investigation. So any sensitive devices, have a look at what voltage requirements they are, what the parameters are. That's just some of the things to consider. Trumping all of that, I would say, if you are trying to do what I'm trying to do, which is run a house for a sustained period just on batteries alone, actually do what I'm doing. Just run through that test, because you'll find some fail points that you lack of knowledge. So William helping with the inverters and battery setup, etc. That was a process to go through to make sure it would be available and online in the case of a power cut, which it wasn't previously. And I've been running that for 6 months, not even realizing actually it wouldn't act as a backup, thinking it would because I'd never run through it. And some of it would just be running around going, oh, I've got to change that setting, or this device is sensitive and doesn't like running on the battery, so we have to always make sure we've got that off. Then consider if it's power failure when you're not there, and it might be doing some of this stuff. So with the Home Assistant, it's running all my solar data to give me a dashboard. That doesn't like sudden power loss and recovery. So when there's a couple of seconds on and off, and that tends to trip it out. And it doesn't seem to ever reboot. It just sits there with a lost signal and goes into a weird boot up mode. Really, I should put a smart switch on that device. So when I'm not receiving the data, if I was away to see what was actually happening with the house, a smart switch would cover that off because I could boot it down and then wait 30 seconds and boot it back up again. Because the router comes back up, no problem at all. Get all the Wi-Fi back, all good to go. Home Assistant, where all the data is for working out how much house battery's left, how much solar's coming in, etc., enabling you to plan, that often trips out and doesn't boot up. Having a smart stat on a smart switch labeled through an app will hopefully cover that off, be able to at least give a chance to remotely turn it off, wait 30 seconds and turn it back on again. So there's some hints and tips for you from practically trying this out day 2. We'll see how we go and see what it looks like this evening. Weather's a bit on and off today. It's currently sunny looking out the window, so see how it goes. We're not going to be able to charge one of the cars up and recover the house battery. So I need to give priority really to the house battery, but both cars, as I described earlier, are real low on range. So my gut feeling, running the house on battery alone is no real problem at all. It's having 3 electric cars. It's basically impossible to keep all 3 going. But with them away, it's just me. So it's just me. So it's a shame my car didn't charge. So I had that in mind to use that. So I'm probably going to use that first thing this morning. I can just about get to the warehouse and back again. But then that's going to be unusable until it gets some charge in it. So I put Amy's on, but I don't really want to leave it on for hours, which I'm going to have to do because I want to recoup the house battery. So complexity, if you've got electric cars, you're probably unable to do it. Don't forget, I've got a 10 kilowatt solar array. And then I've got, so it's 10,000 watts of max power. The most I've ever seen is 9.8. That's a brilliant bright day. So typically pulling in the summer period, I've been pulling about 20 kilowatt hours of power put back in. And I've got 44 kilowatt hours of house battery storage. So yeah, that's where we're at. If you don't know all the specs and stuff, just go and have a look at my earlier videos. Anyway, hope this helps so far. I was just leaving for work and this is tripped out. I heard it click, just getting in the car. So that's been running for about 10 minutes and now it's tripped out. So something not quite right there. It doesn't like, not sure why. Okay, so that is still running, and it appears this is still running. The house though has gone down. It's got notification from another smart device to say that there's a power loss, and it's back up again. I think. Yeah, I think so. Well, lights on inside, so it's back up again, but it would have played havoc with Home Assistant. As I say, I need to get a smart switch on that, so that'll be offline. I won't be able to quite see where my house batteries are, etc. Right, I'll go back in the house. So here's this. It's reading no data. Yeah, so that's it gone down. Home Assistant gone down, I think. Sometimes, so you've got 2 things. You've got the Home Assistant, which could be offline, but also the connection from the inverters giving the data. So the USRs that are connected to the inverters, which transmit the data, sometimes they can go down off the network, but they appear to be up. I think it is Home Assistant that's gone down. So I'm going to go and sort that out. As I turned the camera off, some data appeared. It's reading just that. And it's saying it's using this power. So it's reading power output, it's reading the second battery, but not the first battery. So that is a USR that's gone down. Now the USRs, I've got 2 of them, one for each pack or each inverter. One's a charger for the second pack, which is this one. And then the red line, which has just gone like that, does that mean you've got no data. That needs looking at, that's gone down. But I have got them both on a smart switch. So if Home Assistant is working, but it's really reading no data, remotely I can power them off, leave them off for 30 seconds and boot them back up, and then the data all comes back. So I'm just going to try that and see if that works. Oh, I'm going to try again. Let's see if it starts. I think it'll probably trip it again. There's no reason why it wouldn't. That's the trouble. Okay. It's plugged in, but it's not doing anything. Oh, starting. It says starting, but the car's not doing anything at all. Okay. That's a new one. Uh-oh. It's definitely not delayed. Awaiting approval. Huh. Oh, charging. So very slow. Right, now it needs doing. Okay. Now it's charging. So we can see that on there, charge time. I assume though it's going to trip it again. And then we've got problems again. But the zappy and the reset not worked. Press and hold in for 3 seconds, does nothing. Doesn't boot up, which is a real shame because this one would limit the output, the strain on the batteries. Don't know if it's an earthing thing or what, but it doesn't work. We've been on now for 37 minutes. 37 minutes and have put in 2.2 kilowatts. So almost 10% of its battery size. Okay, it's been on an hour. I'm going to disconnect it now because the sun's gone in. I'm just consuming house battery, but put in 3.6 kilowatt hours. The second battery pack and its associated inverter or charger had no maximum output set. The original inverter, looking at the settings, did or does. So I've gone ahead and matched those settings, and I'm now going to retest my car to see if it then trips out trying to charge at 6.6, which is theoretically 600 watts above the maximum of a single output of a pack at its peak. So I'm going to plug mine in again now and just see if it trips the whole lot out. It'd be a pain if it does because it screws with the Wi-Fi stroke internet connection and everything. So I'm going to give it a go again, and I've got a couple more thoughts to add in, so bear with me because they're little gems, I think. Let's plug him in like so, and then turn off the okay, and now I've turned off the charge, started to charge, boom, gone, power gone. So that hasn't fixed it, and I've tripped out the whole system. But the settings also didn't bring the zappy back to life, even with the thing. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, it's starting to come back up again, but it's tripped the whole lot out. Let's trip this out again. Let's put all this back in. I'll wait a few seconds, plug it back in, and then we should be back up with the stats. So the couple of tidbits I thought of is the answer, as well as the switch, the remote accessible switch, the smart switch to boot down and boot back up, etc. You can kind of cover off that problem with a UPS. So actually having a battery system that those sensitive devices are plugged into, you don't need a massive runtime. So the big thing with those is that most people want it to run for an hour or two. You don't actually need that. What you want is it for 5 seconds. You want it to pick up the slack that is there when the system detects that the grid power is gone, it's failed. It then holds that just for, say, to be a safe buffer zone of 5 minutes. As the system boots back up, takes about 3 seconds to kick in. So I've got the auto switchover. So that's what I've got set up already. It's no manual switchover, but it isn't instantaneous. It can't be used, the UPS. So yeah, nothing you can do about that. But if I put one of those in place at the point of vulnerability, so on the Home Assistant PC, should we call it, the little Odroid device that's running Home Assistant, and on the router, it wouldn't necessarily notice it. And I only need a very small one, so cheap. So around about 50 quid looking online. So there's that answer. So I might need 2 of those. One out in the garage to protect the, trying to think now, the access point there and network over mains and things like that, just to keep them stable. Very low power requirement. So 2 of those in those areas, and then I won't get this issue with it killing the internet and sort of messing around as all the devices reconnect back up, etc. It will hold them just for those split seconds, approximately 3 seconds. So that's one little thing. You could get those devices and plug your vulnerable stuff into those. And of course, the rest of the time, the house battery, so you don't need a massive battery. Most people will look at those devices and want an hour run time so they can run during a sort of a minimal blackout because they've got no other option apart from to run off the grid. Whereas, of course, us people with the solar and the battery don't need it. So that's that one. The other one is I can restrict my car's charging using the granny cable. So if we really did lose power from the grid for 3 days, which has never really happened, I don't think, but imagine it knocked out for a whole week. If I really want to survive, I can use the granny cable to charge my car, which charges it around about 3 kilowatt. So I can get around it that way without having the zappy, and I can charge my own car. Because at the moment, as you've seen multiple times, I've changed the settings on those inverters and it's still not working. So I don't really know that. There must be a way around it, I guess. Because both those combined should put out about 12 constant kilowatts of power. Because it's 2 together running. I kind of think that they're not both picking up at exactly the same time. So it sees a call for 6.6 and can't supply it and trips out. But it could be something completely different. It could be like an earthing issue or something like that. I have no idea. I'm not an electrician. Anyway, granny charger. If you haven't got one, get one, because that'd be really helpful for sort of bringing down the requirement of your EV, depending on what you've got. Most of them now are charging at 7 kilowatt-ish. 3.3 is handy, you see, in emergency, even though it's really slow. We always want faster, but in this instance, actually, you want it to trickle charge. So get a granny charger and then get battery backup for inside the house for vulnerable devices. And you only need, if you've got house batteries, a very short battery life to run them, just to take up the slack. Also, one to add on there is you do really need an auto switchover if you haven't. And you need a switchover of some design, basically. So either mechanical, where you need to be in to switch it over, or ideally, I would have said auto switchover like I've got, which if I'm out and about or away on holiday, what's the point in having all that system in place if it doesn't switch over automatically? You come back and all your freezers and that are completely melted and you think, oh shoot, we got all this battery that we could have used and didn't for this exact thing. So there we go. Still on day 2. Oh, right, here I am again. 82% on the main battery, 97% on the second battery. At close of play, day 2. We're now a full 24 hours into this little experiment running off grid. There we go. I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. Right, it's day 3. Quite early in the morning. 49% on the big battery pack and 97%, I think it is, or 96 or 97%, let's put it on the screen now, for the secondary pack. So secondary pack not really touched. That is just running the inverter. I think it's, can't remember what it was on something like 98%. So it hasn't really been touched. Yesterday we produced just over 19 kilowatt hours of power because of the sun. Today could be a spanner in the works. It is absolutely tipping it down and completely cloudy. Great. As such, it's producing about 170 watts at the moment. So we're consuming 230-ish. So it's taking about half the base load. So we'll see how today goes. It's supposed to stop raining in a couple of hours' time. It might do, but it's supposed to be cloudy all day. So this might be a day of very small production. I predict, let's do a prediction, a little game. Write in the comments below. What do you think day 3 will produce? I reckon 5 kilowatt hours. approximately. So it has been 4 hours since sunrise, and we have generated, wait for it, 1 kilowatt hour of power. Well, with this little beauty here, I've added 3.5 kilowatt hours to the car. Let's see what percentage it's got and how many miles I can do. Okay, let's boot her up. Okay, what have we got? What can I do? 41. Okay, that should be able to get me to... That's a malfunction, thanks to the MOT centre. 67%. Okay, I think I have about 8 miles remaining on it. So yesterday and today I added a bit of charge in, so I can do the errands that I need to do today, that's for sure. So for my car, I do need it tomorrow. So I'm going to have to do something. So I'm going to use, this is what I was talking about earlier, the granny cable. So let's have a little look. It's well used. We used to use it years ago. I haven't used it for ages. And does it show output? So 240 at 10 amps there. You can use that. You can work out the watts from that. But a lot less than the trippy outie 6.6. Let's have a little look what we got in here in terms of miles. 16 miles. I need more than that. I need about 40. So I'm gonna have to do some charging up. Okay, it is charging, which is good. Well, just had a very strange occurrence. I just got a notification now on my phone. Lights were flickering. Battery's at about 35%, the main battery. The other one's at 95%. That car, my car, is charging, but only about 2.5 kilowatts has been consumed. Everything flicks several times. There we go. There's no solar. Something's going on. It doesn't like something. So I'm going to go out in the garage and have a look. Tipping it down and still no real input from the old sun. Car is still charging, so there's no issues there. Oh, is it? Oh, there we go, start to charge again. Something is going on. So that is working, the Wi-Fi's gone again. And that's at 95%, we've got no issues there. The Wi-Fi's gone on both these because they're flashing fast. This is in EPS mode. It's at 37%. Plus 5. Something's going on here. This is taking in 5.5 kilowatts, is it? Or it's giving out 5.5. And this is 15. Not sure what's going on there. Don't know. Yeah, don't really know. We're just going to see what happens, I guess. I don't think any of the... Everything's good in there. Everything's good in there. Don't know is the answer to that question. Not sure. For a summer's day, it's just ridiculous, the weather. No sun at all, basically. Well, nothing. No solar. It's not even... I think it might be produced about 50 watts. And we are, what's time now? Have a quick look. We are 5 to 3 in a summer afternoon. Britain. So this is where we are at the moment, 191 watts. It's using 2.8, 36%, 95%. I might try and stick the kettle on. I think that's going to knock out the power. So let's give it a go. Okay, here goes. Drawing power. No issues. Will it update? Have a little look. That should climb. Yes, it does. Good. So at the moment, it's supplying almost 6, which is, these are split 36.95. This is the 36.95. It should split across. Each pack should be able to give out 6 kilowatt constant. And that at the moment is boiling fine. It doesn't drop out, it doesn't trip it, nothing like that at all. So maybe it's the cars that play havoc with the system in some way. But anyway, it's still going. It was only flickering lights, didn't actually kill the whole power, but yeah. We are charging. Let's have a little look there to see if it lets me know how many miles. No, let's put my foot on the brake. 40 miles. Ah, that's about right. Can I cycle through and see battery percentage? I don't think it's going to allow me. Yes. Okay. 51%. Okay, that's not bad. Sweet. So I'm going to now power this off and try and let the house battery go up a little bit. Possibly. Might be right on the second pack, actually. I might just run this pack down and see what happens once the first pack goes offline and I'm surviving just on the second pack. See how that works. Okay, we are back down to about 16% now on the main battery. I'm just going to turn this on 47 miles. I think what I'm going to do is turn it off now. I've got an e-bike I just put on charge with a 6 amp charger. And as I plugged it in and turned it on, this car did its beep, beep, beep reset thing. Like it just come back on charge. 47 miles, that is going to be enough to get there and back. So that's going to do, I think. Yes, and the power went off because our alarm system's just said it's lost connection and it's operating on cellular data. Power has just been restored. So yeah, it definitely does something weird with spikes. It can't handle them. Anyway, let's power this off. Let's power this off now. Ow. Boom. There we go. I'll leave that there though. Nope, can't get it. Can't do it one-handed. We are now almost down to just utilising the second battery, which is smaller than the first. 10% it'll cut off. I have known it sort of start misbehaving at 12%. But yeah, it's at 12 now. I've got to put the oven on to have some tea. So we'll give it a go, see what happens. Hopefully it'll be all right. Of course, I've always got the option to turn the grid back on, but ideally I want to get over to tomorrow. There's plenty in this battery, as long as it works. So as long as it outputs fine, we're all good. No issue whatsoever. That'll easily carry me over for the rest of the evening until tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's supposed to be a good day, so I'm hoping to see all this fully charged back up again tomorrow by sun. And also, Amy's EMV200 completely dead now. I've got the dashes, I just used it. Got nothing left. That has got 24 kilowatt hours as well to charge up, so probably about 22, something like that, to charge up, and then it's got all of this to charge. So we'll see. This overnight is going to heat the hot water. I haven't changed that setting, so the immersion comes on for 3 hours. But of course, there's no one really being home, so not all the water's being drained out, so it still has some warmth in it. So shouldn't take all the power out. We'll see though, by tomorrow, maybe it will go off overnight, but we'll see. I'll report back a bit later on, but I'm going to report back once this definitely is off this pack, because at the moment, it's utilising that pack first as the primary pack. The oven's going to sort that 2% out, I'm pretty sure. My fears have been realised. The power's gone off. Great, so it won't run on the second battery. The house has just shut down. So let me go to the garage and try and see why that may be. Okay, well, these are all up. That's at 11%, which means it will have stopped supplying. The issue is, so none of these lights are on, you see, so it's not providing any power. This has got 95% battery, so there's a setting somewhere, I suspect, that's causing this issue. Let's just double check. So nothing's tripped there at all, and nothing is tripped here at all. So I'm not really sure at this point in time why that may be. I need to do a bit of legwork. But at the moment, this pack here, this one's depleted. This one here is not taking over. There's no red lights on it, but it's not taking over the house power, interestingly. So I've messed around, I've checked the settings on this one. They match the settings on this one. Frustratingly, this is the end of the test. I have got 95% state of charge, and it would run it just fine until we got to tomorrow. But sadly, it does not appear that this second pack in EPS mode will power the house, presumably for some, could be a setting. They do match, as I say, maybe I'm missing one, or it could just be the way that it's wired up. I do not know. But it's not working as off-grid with this second pack and with the charger here. So that needs some investigation. So sadly, this is the end. I was hoping to get toward the end of the week. Time to turn the grid back on. Let's see it boot back up. So we got power back in. It's been restored. They're making some noises. That's coming off EPS mode. That one says waiting. So, and I think when that's up, this will start powering the house. It won't be taking it from the grid, but I need to wait and see. But it's all back on again, so we'll see. I'll go back in and just see where we're at once all the internet's come back round, Home Assistant's come back round, so I can check the stats. I suspect it's going to be drawing it now from this pack, which essentially is still off grid because it's not going to use the grid at all, but it does need that live feed in at the moment. So we'll see. I'll just double check that it is actually now running off that. I'm pretty confident it will, because I've been using it for the last, whatever it is, 6 months. When the main pack runs out, it then reverts to this one in that sequence, but I've never tried it without power to the board. So yeah, don't know. So Home Assistant isn't fully back up yet, but some of it is. The battery at 11% offline, 93%, but it must somehow pass through this first battery, I'm guessing. Oh, some of this is starting to come back alive. No figures yet. That'll eventually come through. Don't know if I refresh now. That's off, but I can prove that the oven is now on, which is about 2 kilowatts, something like that. And the meter is showing 25 watts, so it's definitely using that second pack. It always displays something, the meter, so even though it's fully being used, it's always displaying something. So basically, it's off grid, 355. Let's have a look what happens now. Should drop back down again. It's because the oven basically is temperature, there we are, see? Back to 25. So, we're back in action. It's running off the second pack, but I've found out from my experiment that I need to do some investigation to work out why it won't run the whole house off the second pack. So, what have we learned? I've already mentioned about the fact you can have UPSs on your sensitive equipment that you don't want to boot down. So the ones you don't want to boot down, you want them up all the time, and sensitive like computers and equipment like that. That's the dog, by the way. UPS, granny cable, and also definitely run through a dry run to see how everything pans out, and you can adjust your house accordingly. catch you next time when I rerun through this experiment. It has been very hard work, so I've got to sort the Zappy out and work out why, which may be tied into the fact that both packs weren't running at the same time. Evidently, as I found out. Catch you next time. Just out of interest, what will happen the following day? Well, massive amounts of fog, which hopefully will lift in a couple of hours' time. But it's just really, really foggy. The sun is behind all that. So I'm not sure what our yield's going to be like today. Yesterday is about 6.5, I think it was, by the end of the day, kilowatt hours. So that's what would have happened if I'd still been running fully on batteries, which I technically have been, but the grid's been available, as you saw, had to make it available to get the second pack to work. I wonder what today's yield will be like. And just to close out the day at 10 to 11 in the evening, today, with all that mist, it cleared and I produced 44.29 kilowatt hours of power. 39p per kilowatt at time of filming I pay on my electricity plan. That's per kilowatt hour, so 39 pence times 44, £3.90 for every 10. So you kind of get the idea. We're about the 20 quid mark, aren't we? Not bad. Truly is the end of this video now, so please like and subscribe and comment below. I will do a rerun of this test at some point once I've worked out the second battery pack providing power to the house as a standalone unit. Once I do, I shall reapproach it and also answer what was going on to stop it doing that.